Hey folks, how's it going? Jovan, Hutton, Pulitzer here. You know, it's been quite a long time, right? Quite a long time since we've all been able to get together and chat and find out what's going on with each other. Because we've all been at home quarantining or self-quarantining or hiding out or stuff. And so that's what we'll try to catch up on because it's been such a while. I'm glad you're joining me. Let me click on my comments here. Hey, Teresa, how's it going? Nice to see you. As we get going, I think there's quite a few things to talk about. It's like, you know, so many things have happened over the last few months. Now more than ever, history has changed, and all of us have lived so much interesting history, right? Are you realizing that? How much history has gone on? Hey, Julie, I missed you too. And Maureen, how you doing? How's everybody doing? And the craziness continues. Here we are catching up with each other, and as we speak, right? More riots are going on across the United States. Everybody, just do me a favor. Let me know where you are. Pop up on the screen, and as I adjust my screen here, and tell me where you're joining me from, right? And if you've got some of these riots going on in your cities, that's going to be one of the things we're going to talk about, right? Because it seems to be happening all across the country. Florida, Vicky's in Florida, and of course we got Dennis in California, right? Kevin, let's see. Hope you're doing well. Good to hear from you. Yeah, we are living through history right now. Now more than ever, can you believe it? That things are. I'm sure that most people a little bit don't know how much history has actually taken on. Hey, Joe, missed you as well. That so much history has gotten condensed into such a very small amount of time that we are now physically living in a time that is going to be studied. Think about it. Here we are gathered talking tonight, and we are living in a time that is literally going to be studied in time. This is going to be what we're watching right now on TV is going to be taught in schools, right? It's going to be taught in universities around the world. It is going to be talked about over and over and over again. And the reason it's going to be talked about is just not because of any one thing. There are so many things going on right now in history that we're going to have something in each category, whether it be from political events or whether it be from this pandemic that we've been going to or through or anything like that. Maggie says, let me see what Maggie says here. Chicago suburb looters being carted around in and out to burbs route. Remember Detroit in the 70s burning down? We were on our way. Chicago will be changed for the worst forever. I'm gonna use that real quick, and I'm gonna take off, Maggie, from a story there, and I'll share with you as people gear up with it. And I've shared this before, but I want to tell you how fast it can get out of control. When you have demonstrations going on, and then you have agitation going on. Those are two different things, demonstration, agitating. People have a right to demonstrate. People have a right to protest. There is a significant demonstration or difference between demonstrating and then doing the stuff where you're breaking windows and looting or using it as an excuse to loot. But I can tell you how fast this can get out of hand. During my time in Los Angeles, I was speaking at a television conference one day, and then that television conference was the day the Rodney King riots broke out, where the verdict Once again, black fellow got beat up by cops, and everybody went crazy all over it. It was the first real documented case where people were saying police brutality, and it was the first time that the world got to see it via camera. That's when handy cams had first started coming out. This is the early 90s. And when that riot broke out and the verdict came down and people started getting upset, I knew it was going to be trouble. I just left Santa Monica and I'm driving across, Sunset, headed back right there to Sunset, right there at the Whiskey, right? Where the Whiskey A Go-Go is, where all the old rock bands and stuff used to hang out. And I just lived right up the hill. I went right up the hill. And by the time I just got in and got up the hill, couldn't have been 30 minutes, and got into the house and turned on the TV. As soon as I turned on the TV, just to kind of get a grasp of what was really going on, I could hear it on the radio. That was when Reginald Dennehy, that's the truck driver that got the brick in the head, that those two guys pulled him out, threw a brick in the head, and I thought, holy smoke, this is going to be bad. And I basically walked to the back porch and looked over the back porch, looked out all over the, down the hill and Sunset in the valley. And this is not even 35 minutes line, and the whole valley's on fire. That's how fast this stuff can get out of control, right? And so and I can tell you from firsthand, it only takes one or two people in a panic or one or two people being agitated, and then it kind of gives permission to others. Now think about this. So everybody, when this COVID thing hit, because I think they're all kind of tied together, which I'll explain in a minute. But when this COVID hit, people went to the grocery stores, and I have to kind of imagine, what happened when the first person basically bought just an ungodly amount of toilet paper, right? And thinking, oh man, I need a lot of toilet paper, right? I have excessive bowels, whatever it is. I can imagine it kind of sets off a chain reaction, right? People go, well, maybe I missed something. They're stocking up on toilet paper. What do they know that I don't know? And it kind of might create this tidal effect, right? This compounding effect. And so in the span of a week, what will go down historically for our country is another episode between people of color and the police. That's one. We broke the 100,000 mark in COVID-19 deaths in the United States. That's two. We had these riots. That's three because of that. And the scale of the riots has superseded now anything that has hit at any other time. That's four. And then number five, that's getting drowned out in all this mess, we put man back in space. How freaking awesome is that? We ourselves as a nation put manned flight back on the map, and we actually sent up, right? We sent up humans up into space, did it flawlessly, and docked with the station. Can you imagine that? And so that's going to be the last thing I talk about. So first, let's just talk about coronavirus update. A lot of you know I've been diligently working on putting together a triage with COVID-19, and a group of us and a group of companies, we came together, formed a consortium, and it's all been about triaging, originally to help get people get tests, and now it's to help get people back to work. Triaging it by sectors, right? So you have the military has to basically be ready to deploy. All of you now have to be ready to get back to work. You now have the issues that we talk about in business almost every day, that ambulance chasers will now become COVID chasers because people are being told to go back to work, and it's opening back up to go back to work. but there's going to be a whole new branch of lawsuits that come from that. I bet people go back to work and then they get COVID-19 at work and have disastrous results. They're going to be lawsuits. So there's a lot of COVID protection going on. So we're kind of helping triage the airline business, the cruise ship business. Cruise ship has completely changed. There will be no cruises until the Center for Disease Control signs off that it's actually safe to go on ships. And right now, everybody's trying to figure out how to do that. So I'm not going to dwell on the bad statistics of COVID. I just want to show you some of the cool stuff coming out as a result of epidemics. I've talked about this before. You know, Newton made some of his most incredible breakthroughs during their lockdowns with pandemics. At times of crisis, there are horrible things that happen, but crisis creates great things that happen as well. And I think it's the fate of mankind that we don't learn when it's great. Let's just take an athlete. Athlete works their butt off, goes to college, plays ball, gets recruited pro, makes a buttload of money, blows it all. Well, while they were blowing all the money and partying, were they learning anything? No, they were kind of oblivious. And then when you get on the downside of blowing all that money, you wake up and go, holy crap, where did all that money go? And then it's from those failures that you learn. It's the same in business. It's the same in life. It's the same with relationships. It's the same with designing or building anything. We don't learn when it's easy or learn when it's good. We learn when it's hard, and that's when we make great breakthroughs. Through this COVID thing, we've learned a few interesting things. We've learned that people really can work remotely. We've learned that, wow, you can use your mobile phone, right? And the video on it to visit your doctor, and you don't have to see them face to face, and it can be like an office visit. We've learned that our college and university age children, and many of our high school children, can actually attend school through the computer and it be just as good and just as fine. So there's a lot of upgrading going on that COVID has untethered us from a few things. And so some really good changes in mankind and all of us are going to come about because we've gone through this crisis together. Now you know why some cultures don't shake hands and they bow. Why do you think they bow? When you investigate history and you investigate the origins, you find out that that came about where they dealt with their own pandemics that they realized touching each other, passing hand to hand, spread disease, and they stopped doing it and went to something else. So do I think we in the Western world will go to bowing? No, just like I don't think we're going to end up wearing masks every day. But some of our habits will change. So I want to show you something really, really cool that is coming out of this COVID pandemic. First off, you know, we are all told to wash our hands. And the reason we would have to wash our hands so much, ironically, was not as much about keeping them clean per se. It was about the reason you sang the little song and you did it for 20 seconds is because the COVID germ has this little protein shells on it. That's the little spikes on the outside, you know, little red looking Shrek ears on the shell, right? The membrane. It was the machination, the features of rubbing your hands together that would actually destroy the protein shell, right? That would pop the COVID virus. And when you pop the virus, it dies, it's dead. It has to be popped. If it's intact, it's still alive. Now, I heard somebody say once, which I just laughed at, that we've now put so much hand sanitizer on our hands that our bodies have become saturated with hand sanitizer that when I pee, I'm also cleaning the toilet. Because we're just consuming this stuff in hordes. But let me show you. How you doing, Jessica? How's it going? And hey, Paula, how you doing? And Lee, how's it going? Let me show you a very interesting breakthrough in virus and bacteria science. This is the first time I've showed this to the outside world, meaning not the people in the industry. So from a public standpoint, you're going to get to see it. But let me show you the newest technology that hopefully will become the norm when we deal with pandemics and germs and stuff being spread. You know, a lot of this spread because COVID would get on people's clothes. COVID would get on handrails and shopping carts and everything else like that. And when we touched it, it transferred to our hands. And then we all had to realize, especially me, how much you touch your face during the day, or if you pick your nose, or you pick your teeth, or whatever you do. We were literally injecting COVID, right? We were injecting COVID into our system. And that is not the way that most hand sanitizers are set up. Hand sanitizers, yeah, Jill, you're right. Hand sanitizers are actually not the way to do it. And you're right, Dennis. Viruses are not alive or dead. They can't be killed, but they can be destroyed. And that's the key. See, we think about hand sanitizers and stuff having all these toxic chemicals in them that will dehydrate the virus. And that's how they exterminate the virus, and it's a chemical kill, and the stuff can be really toxic for you. But think about in a pandemic, if you're spraying it everywhere, like you're spraying some of these other things, you know how toxic it can be. Well, what if you could have something that was totally non-toxic? In fact, you could eat it if you had to eat it, but you could do a few things. You could spray your home, your carpets, your draperies, your beds, your pillows, whatever the case may be, right? You could post it all. Hey, John, you could spray it all, right? And then you could spray it on your clothes. And if COVID got on you anywhere, it just basically popped it on contact. But what if that spray could last for like 6, 7, 8, 9 months, except for high traffic areas, you'd spray a little more. So now you could do school buses and hospitals and restaurants and everything else. And even as a hand lotion, you could put it on your hand and you only do it once, but it would be there for 9 hours and you didn't have to reapply it, right? That's when you can make a real breakthrough. Hey, Bill, how's it going, brother? And so let me show you and turn you on to some science, which is called a mechanical kill. So I'm going to set a few things for you. The product is totally non-toxic. It's basically inert. And it's sprayed, okay, or rubbed on. But what it does is a technology called a mechanical kill. It's not a hard abrasive agent or a toxic agent, the bleaching type things or alcohols or whatever that dries out, hopes it dries out. Let me show you the newest revolution in killing virus and bacteria. So I'm gonna play the video. Let me turn up my sound because I think you have to hear it from my sound. Okay, so let me show you this, and then I'd love to get your impression of it. Tell me what you think. Ready? Here we go. Okay. Whoa, hang on. Okay, here we go. Ready? There we go.
naked eye can see the diameter of a human hair. That's 1/10 of a millimeter, or 100,000 nanometers.
So how cool is that? Think about it this way. I always relate it to like killing roaches or killing ants or whatever the case may be. Let's say you have fire ants, in Texas, you have really bad fire ants and it can get into your chickens and all your other livestock, and the fire ants can eat them up and kill them. You have two choices with fire ants, right? You can use pesticides, or if you do it the old farm way, you pour diesel down in the hole, right? And you light the mound on fire and hope you get it. But they keep on coming back, they keep on coming back, they keep on coming back. One very surefire way to kill fire ants, and you can try this, is on a sunny day, can't be damp, on a sunny day, make sure you have a little packet, the little bitty packets of grits, right? That come in the little like breakfast cereal things. It's got to be the dehydrated grits, not the ones you cook, the ones that are already made, you just add hot water. And so basically go out to your fire mound where the fire ants are, stir it up, they'll all come to the top, and you just basically take a little package of grits and you spread it on the mound. If you understand the psychology of those fire ants, they'll gather the food up, but none of them eat it until the queen of the colony takes the first bite and approves it. She approves it by taking the first bite, and then kind of all in unison, they all take a bite. Well, so what they do is they take the grits down, way down to the bottom where the queen lives. The queen bites, they all do it, and bam, they all die. You know how they die? They die because grits are dehydrated, cooked. What do they need to rehydrate? Water. When the ant bites it and it goes into their system, what does that dehydrated good suck from their system? The water. Boom, they're dead. Totally natural. Totally natural way to do it. And it works every time and goes right down to the bottom and will kill every one of them. But yet we continue to use environmentally harsh items to kill things. Same with viruses and bacteria. So what you saw there, the easiest way to explain it is a brand new way to take silica, right? Like silica chips, like silica, sand, silica. And at the nanomolecular level, that silica is ground and machinated and made into a spray. And in a certain way it's sprayed and applied, what it does is it leaves little bitty needles. Now this is all way beyond the human eye detection level. And as you saw there, a viron, that's what a single cell of COVID is, or bacteria, or all these other things, right? A vira, right, is you could fit 2,000 of them on one end strand of a human hair. Well, compare that to the little needles. In the little needles that are created by the silica, we can actually put, hang on one second, 20,000 swords, little bitty swords, right? And so on the same end of the human hair is 20,000 little bitty nano swords sticking up. And so what happens is when bacteria, viruses, all kinds, not just the COVID, but when it basically comes in contact with them, when it basically lands on it, those little needles get past all those little ears because there's 10 to 1, and they slip past it and pop it. And when it's popped, it's basically neutered, dead, killed, over. And so now there is a product where you can basically spray it as people come in, spray it on the seats, movie theaters, stadiums, whatever the case may be. And now you have an environment where viruses and bacteria cannot live, and they basically pop on contact. You don't swap them from each other. And even if you touch somebody that had just sneezed a boogery, snooty, sneezy snot on a rail, when it hit the rail, it would die, but in it was live, because if you had it on hand cream or clothes and you touched it, it would pop it. And so that's the future of how viruses will be killed. Dennis says, so the human biome includes literally millions of viruses and bacteria which were not harmful, though. Will a mechanical system kill the good with the bad and kill those parts of us which are beneficial? Good question. You're not ingesting it. That's number one. You're not ingesting it. And so anything of the flora, fauna that is in your system going on, no. For the external bacteria and viruses that are constantly trying to get into our system, that our system does not normally ingest or put there in a healthy way, yes, it will pop them. Would this be something I wouldn't use anything all the time, regardless of what the product was? But can this be a solution for cruise ships, for airlines that are recirculating air, and maybe COVID can go into the air? Absolutely. We found that most of the spread in the hospitals was from room to room, cycling circulation of air, basically putting COVID in the air, taking it over to other operating rooms, other trauma rooms, other care rooms. And that was the leading cause of spreading it around. So you have to kind of decide, how can you deal with this unique virus? And the unique way to deal with it is to start attacking it from the moment it comes in. And the only way you can attack it from the moment that it comes in is you've got to stop it from riding on things. So yes, are you as a human consuming bacteria and viruses from your clothes that are beneficial to you? No, that you have ride-alongs in the environment, but everything you have as a human and everything you ingest as a human, everything you naturally get through your normal food consumption that might ride along on fruits, leafy greens, or otherwise, water, whatever the case may be, are all still there. It's just the stuff that rides along with you that can create the problem. But that was a great question. So that is how some of this on good things on the COVID front are coming out, is because you have to find new ways to kill the things that attach, and it's the attachment, and I kind of call it like bugs laying eggs in your body, because that's really kind of what it mimics. They get into your body and they replicate. It's a kind of a hatching process. They duplicate and replicate. And it's that process of all that replication that is what basically infects your body, takes up more and more of your body, takes up more space. It causes your immune system to basically continue to react, and finally your immune system is overloaded. Here's what we found in the last month since we've talked and dealing with this. There are some instances in populations, and when I say populations, like maybe a testing group in a county or a testing group in a company or an operational unit, that as many as or as much as 45% of the people in that group have already been exposed to COVID and cycled through it, right? And just totally cycled through it. So we're looking at a true number in population that might be 1%, might be a 0.5%, depending on where the testing runs out. But then you get into the more populations. Unfortunately, I saw one nursing home that lost 40%, 50% of its seniors in one home. Just wiped them out. It was absolutely horrible. If you have pre-existing conditions, you got to really, really, really absolutely be careful. But it looks like this was actually here longer than anybody knew, and far more people had already been exposed to it. And so now a lot of data is trying to be tracked to find out when really was it? When did it hit our shores? There are some indications that it might have occurred hitting the shores of the United States of America as far back as October. As far back as October. And so it's very possible that if you had a funky flu, right? If you had a funky flu, sometime in the last quarter of last year or the quarter of this year, and even if you went in to get a flu or strep test and it didn't show anything or whatever, that you very well could have had COVID and cycled through it. Meaning you're already have produced antibodies, your system's already dealt with it. So now what there is to learn from all of this, is that we got to find out from the people that have recovered. Think of your body as a mitered glass, like a lab glass, and the water fills up at different levels, like kind of like a measuring cup. What's not known yet is how much in that measuring cup, meaning in antibodies, that you've already kind of had it and your body has built up. Where does that level need to be? Do you need to be a little bit of antibodies? Do you need to be a lot of antibodies? That's what's going to be learned in the next level. There are many years, quite regularly many years, that people die of flu that hit 100,000 people a year, like we've hit here in the United States. So why did this one go so wackadoodle and hard? Well, because it came in so hard, it came in so fast, and it really started to look like it was attacking certain groups faster, and it was doing funky stuff that nobody ever knew, like clogging up the lungs faster. And what do you do when somebody's trying to breathe and they're laying there with a ventilator? They're laying on their back. Well, we're actually finding that laying on their back is not the good thing to do. It's to roll them over, let their lungs that are getting heavier get off their heart, let the heart get a little space, and it can deal with it. And so that's where everybody kind of learns and grows in this. But the last time that the world dealt with a major, yeah, you're right, Teresa, novel makes it new. The last time that the world dealt with this was in the 1900s, 1917, 1918, in the Spanish flu. I lost an uncle. My family was really old. Was my grandparents' first child. Passed away during that time from it. And so I have some footage I want to show you. And I want to give you a look back in time. And let's look back at colorized footage from from 1900, that window, very early 1900s. And I want you to look at it because outside of the mode of transportation and outside of the clothing, we can see ourselves in them. And what's important is in their pandemic, over 50 million people died. Yet we, all of us on this broadcast, we're still here, which means we get through it. We're survivors. We're another edge, and all of us going forward, our children and everything else have now survived this one, and herd immunity and other stuff keep doing it. So let me show you some footage that I think is really interesting that you might enjoy from a history standpoint, because we don't normally talk about history. Let me show you some footage from just before this terrible pandemic hit way back then with the Spanish flu, right? Let me show you some footage of what we looked like. Our grandparents, great-grandparents foremost, great-great-grandparents. Take a look at this. I think you'll enjoy it. It's really interesting to look at. Look at the faces. Look at what people are doing. A little more congested than we are now, but take a look at it. It's really interesting looking back in time. Here we go.
Paris, the capital city, was the beating heart of a country in full mutation. A passionate heart beating to the rhythm of frantic traffic. On the central artery of the Grand Boulevard that structured the journey from Concorde to République, there was a chorus of hooting horns and bicycle bells, amongst cavalcades of horses and insects from Parisian coachmen, notorious for their erratic driving and undisciplined behavior. Paris was a vibrant heart that needed to be nourished. At La Villette, the market agents of Les Halles jostled with each other to negotiate livestock that arrived each day by train from the countryside. Cattle, pigs, and sheep were driven straight to the slaughterhouses alongside the railway line. Wood, construction materials, and some other goods entered Paris by the River Seine and the Saint-Martin Canal. There were many lockkeepers and dockers to deal with this constant river traffic, from La Villette to the quaysides of the Ile de la Cité. Everything converged towards the massive central market of Les Halles, or as Émile Zola called it, the stomach of Paris. People bustled and swarmed around every stall, fruit and vegetable sellers shouting out their wares, and the market agents hustling to carry the produce from one place to another.
Now I show you that as a way to demonstrate how much mankind continues to learn and we change. Think about that. Look at that video. You looked at those images. You were looking at, that was the grocery store then. All of our foods were out in the open. Everything was much dirtier and filthier, right? Animals in the street, dung in the street, sewer in the street. Everybody's filthy. Hygiene was totally different. And so the reason I wanted to show you that footage is, and you're right, Maureen, adaptability. At the end of the day, we are still human and we are mankind. There is nothing set in stone except death, birth, and you're going to get death, right? Some people say taxes, of course. That's it. That's the only constant. Everything else is always in flux. Everything else is always in change. Think of how many changes we've been through. Those of you that are around my age, think about the days when we had 4 digits as a phone number. Think about the days when television was only black and white, and then we got color, and then we got stereo in a TV. Think about the days when we first got our mobile phones and they were big bricks and bags we used to carry on it, and our cell phone bills, if we really used cell phone, could be $1,000 to $3,000 a month. Think about when we thought faxes were cool. Think about when we thought the internet was a fad. Right? Think about when a copier was the way you did it, or a Xerox, or a fax. Think about when we had to take our photos to the little Fox Photo or Kiss Photo thing, because we took out our little roll of film and we'd go to the grocery store parking lot and there was that little hut, and you'd pass it off to them and they'd have it to you 3 days later, right? Your little 110 film, and then you get to look at your photos and only then you saw them. Rotary phones. Think about just in our lifetime how much has changed. Now those, for a lot of us, those would be my, now I'm from a different family because my father's the youngest of a passel of kids. And so my grandparents were very old. And my grandfather at that time was, already a teenager when you see that footage. And so I come from a much older family and I'm later in the line. For some of you, it would probably be your great-grandparents. But think about just that span of 100 years. Looking at that, how far we have come. Think about how far we have come from 1992 through 94, when we had CompuServe and America Online, and all we had was online and a bulletin board. Think about that. Think about it's 2020, and if you just took 10 years off that timeline, 80% of the things you do right now on your mobile phone or the social media you use didn't exist. We couldn't do this type of streaming where I could put you in. We'll put Teresa up here. See that? Where I could put people up. You could see their name. You could see what they're saying, right? And you can see their images. We couldn't even do that 2 years ago. This is what is exciting about mankind. And this is why, being terrified of pandemics and COVID, you have to realize we are better equipped than any time in history to deal with this. And you know what? We got this. We got this. And if you don't believe me, look up the numbers just for flu. Yes, COVID's different. Yes, COVID's dangerous. All this other stuff. Paul's right. Ready? Paul said 1903 with the Wright brothers to 66 years later, we were landing on the moon. Think about that. From 1903 with the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk, 66 years later, we were landing on the moon, and our little bitty phones that we do all this stuff on is about 2,000 times more computationally proficient than the computers that sent mankind to the moon. We have got this. You're right, Thacker. We've got this. And we are prepared. Think about how devastating this would be. Thank you, Julie. Think about how devastating this would be with COVID if we were still back then. We are absolutely amazing. Here's what's amazing. Here's what just boggles my mind. Okay, we saw Doug and Bob get sent into space. Congratulations, Elon. You pulled it off. You deserve absolutely incredible kudos, right? People said you were nuts and you got it done. People said you were nuts for re-landing rockets to make it reusable. But that's the future. The future is we've got to decrease the cost, but increase the action of use. And that's what you saw. You saw a rocket put mankind back into space and land back on its own so it could be reused. Now think about this. You have one little bitty capsule traveling at 17,000 miles an hour. 17,000 miles an hour. You've got another one, right? The space station traveling even faster. Think about this. This is the brilliance of mankind of why we've got this and it's not out of control. We can figure our brains, our computers, our science can figure out exactly what time should we take off, considering, ready? Considering winds, temperature, wind resistance, velocity. We shoot that rocket straight up, right? Well, by the time it gets straight up, before it reaches the first maintain event, where it's basically getting into the edges of the stratosphere, it's going straight up. But that rocket, technically, that we watched going straight up is already 200 miles south already. Or excuse me, 200 miles north, bang. Just on its coming up, and that's how far, ready? That this Earth, you don't realize it, but we're traveling at 28,000 miles an hour, roughly. We live on a ball that spins at 28,000 miles an hour, right? Is it 28,000 miles an hour, right? Think about that. Now think about the power of the human mind to think, manage, comprehend, compute, wrangle, dissect, look at, figure out, understand, and freaking put back together, that they could take in consideration how fast the Earth's spinning, how far do they have to go, right? How far away it is, where it's going to dock, two things converge, and they can't miss it by even inches. They can't do it by inches. But it works. Bill, you set me up, and this is great. Ready? Bill Kelly, my friend, my good friend, said, can you tell me why they're burning down our cities? They trashed Ruth Chris right where we were. Bill, that's horrible. That's horrible. Yeah, you've seen a lot of photos of Bill and I out for dinner having fun. We were with Ruth Chris. That's horrible. Why can we do amazing things and yet fall short of the simple things? That's the million-dollar question. Do you want to know why? I'm going to tell you why. And I truly, truly believe this. This is my belief why this happens. Politics, the ruling class, which is different, and church. I'm using that generically. I'm not putting anyone's religion. But politics, the ruling class, and the church have a vested interest in mankind feeling helpless, sad, lost, and dependent. And I'll prove it to you. We can go back in church history and we can look at things from a historic standpoint. We all talked about history. We have connected over history. But the very reason sea monsters are on maps out there, says don't go out there, the sea monsters will eat you, is because the political class, ruling class, and the church at the time didn't want people venturing out to find their fortune and fame. Why? They needed you to work, to slave, to share, to be complacent, to be part of the program, to stick with it. The way you stick with the program is to have no hope. Is to have no hope. If you have no hope, if you truly believe that you cannot make a difference, if you think because of your skin color your brain doesn't work right, or your skin color makes your brain the only one that works right, you're wrong. Every single one of us, have exactly what it takes to do anything we want. Now, I am coming to you as a welfare baby of a prostitute, drug addicted, alcoholic mother who died of AIDS. But I learned the greatest secret of all. Two secrets. I learned the systems of deception, and then I learned you can do anything if you're willing to put your mind to it and work. And so, Bill, to answer that question, why are we, as mankind, burning down buildings? Because you have been told and brainwashed, you're oppressed, I'll take care of you, oh, you poor thing, you need us, oh, you can't succeed without us, you can't make money without us, oh, you can't get into school without us, oh, we got to take care of you, oh, you can't do this, oh, you can't do that, shut up and follow the rules. And you bought it. And you bought it. My mind stresses over things like, fuck, I'm 54 years old. I need more lifetimes to finish up the shit I got to do. And that I can tell you the day, I can take you back physically to the spot where I was as a teenager. And I basically said, fuck this. I'm not going to be this. I'm going to be something different. And I'm just going to make it happen. I can take you to the spot. When I say that, I can still smell the autumn air of when I made that decision. Think about us and think about kids today. And this is what kids don't hear. You and I, if you're close to my age, you had to depend on the library. And depending upon where you went to school, you were probably lucky if that library had a set of encyclopedias. And you were really blessed if your family had a set of encyclopedias. Now, maybe you had a set of encyclopedias, but yours were 20 years old. At least you could learn up to a certain point. That's the way it used to be done. You, if you're watching this, and you have children and you have grandchildren, the number one thing you can show them is it does not matter what you want to learn. You can type it right into this device right in front of you, and you can find out. And so this is the greatest time ever in history. This is the greatest time in history to be alive. And I'm telling you why. Because throughout mankind, those Julie, I have multiple sets of encyclopedias because I can't get rid of them because I love the books. If you want to learn to change oil in a car, you can look it up. If you want to learn advanced calculus or trigonometry, you can do it. If you want to attend an MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology class on physics, right now, a lot of you probably couldn't even pass the exams to get into the university. But did you know for 69 bucks, you can take the physics class online? Think about that. There's nothing you we can't learn. We have the greatest computer in the world here, and we've got these great little rinky-dink computers that connect us all together. And so those kids you see, John's got it figured out. John says, I don't need no encyclopedias. My wife knows everything. Just ask her. We have everything at our fingertips. Everything. And because we have let multiple generations of kids get absorbed in junk instead of feeding their brain, right? And get absorbed in the value in their life as if I'm wearing the right sweatsuit or wearing the right sneakers, right? Or their value is, I can't have that, I got to get it. And we don't think about working it. We think about, well, here's an opportunity. They're not going to arrest us. No way they're going to do it. Let's go get it. Where are the parents? Where's the parents? We people my age, maybe a little bit older and a little bit younger. This is our shit. We raised those kids. We raised those kids. Something in the 80s went wrong. Something in the 80s misguided us, and we started to consume more, and we started to measure ourselves by the car we drive. Think about mankind. Ready? Mankind used to build their houses out of stone. Think about Pennsylvania's, Missouri's, Texas, old timers, river rock stone. They built houses. Those houses still set today. And then in Allentown, Pennsylvania, they did Allentown, the first suburb, which was 2x4s and sticks and lumber to build up real quick to do workers get really quick housing. And then really quick housing somehow became new. And how did they make it the new? They basically did a campaign that just said, oh, if you have a house built out of stone, God, that's old. You're just not hip. You're just not with it. And we all moved over to houses made with sticks and cheap materials, when we could still build our houses out of stone today and they'd last hundreds of years. That's why, Bill. That's why all of us. There are kids out there on the streets running around that have no hope, no parents that have paid attention, nobody who paid attention to their parents. Nobody has sit them down and say, look, you want to change your life? Let me show you how to use the magic of your fingers, and let me show you how you use this little device here. Right? Tony's watching it from Dairy Queen drive-thru. Oh my goodness. I love Dairy Cream ice cream because I think it's the best one there is, because I think it's still really ice cream, and they dip it in the double dip chocolate cone with a little swirly goo on top. Have one for me. We got to let these kids know that certain set of shoes don't do it. A certain card is not what makes you it, right? A certain suit or whatever doesn't do it. You know what does it? All of those things are temporary. But the one thing you can change that makes a difference, that will always stick with you, is yourself. Yourself. And the ones that judge you by, if you're not wearing the right shoes, you're not wearing the right clothes, we need to teach our kids they don't belong in your circle. Be glad they told you. Those are the things we lost. And that's why we've got kids out there. And I think it's a three-part mix. It's kids that are screaming out, that have no help, that have no support system, right? Have no guidance, that feel lost, and they're lashing out because they want somebody to pay attention to them. Then you got a group in the middle, and some of that group in the middle are the kids that have been told if you're hip, you protest. If you're on the right side, you protest. If you're, we've kind of made it a have not or want not. I heard somebody discussing the other day, if you're not wearing a mask in public, you must be conservative because you don't give a shit about people. And if you wear a mask in public, you must be a liberal because you care about mankind, and that's where you wear the mask. Even that, the mask, has been made political. And so I think there's a part of kids in there that believe they're showing their virtues, their virtue signaling, they're on the right size. And then I think there's a total group that are just rotten, mean, want to see the system fail, because where they've taken their desperation, they have so bought into the formula that the system's rigged, the man's against you, the system's against you, that they've gone so far down on the scale that they basically is like the person that's going to commit suicide but won't kill themselves, wants to take people with them. They're saying, screw you. If I can't have it, you're not going to have it. I'm going to take you with me. And so I think that's what are going on. Bill, I don't think the riots are staged. I think the riots are planned. I think riots are an opportunity. And when I say an opportunity, it's an opportunity to make politicians look bad. It's an opportunity to make America look bad to the world. It's an opportunity to destabilize. There's been a lot of people that have made fortunes off of destabilization of cities, states, countries, etc., primarily overseas, now coming to our shores. Nobody wants to, America gets held out to the world. And, people love to see their heroes, but they love to see their heroes fail more, right? And it's the way it is. Let a Mark Zuckerberg rise to stardom. People will have envy, and then people will start praise and worshiping him. But if you were to have somebody like a Zuckerberg fail and fall and lose everything, he'd have a set of the population go, see, I told you so. See, I told you so. There's a whole section of people that don't want to see other people succeed. I come from a family that's wired that way. You say, I think I'm going to do this. The first thing I was done, well, you can't do that. That's stupid. It's the same thinking, right? And so I think what we're seeing is I think right now we should be celebrating that we put mankind back out into space, that we're making multiple flights to the space station, that we're about to put up a brand new type of space station, and that we're about to have our first woman on the moon, and that we're about to basically get our flight to Mars, even though that flight will take 9 months round trip if we can spend time on the ground. Think about that. That's math. Millions and millions of miles, and we're going to hit that target. That's the brilliance of mankind. But it's the classic battle for good and evil. The evil side doesn't want mankind to think they're great. The evil side does not want people to succeed, right? It's much easier to wallow. It's much easier to play a victim. It's much easier to feel the system failed you instead of you didn't do shit about your lot in life. And so blaming's easier. Blaming's easier than starting. What is very sickening is people standing there felt more comfortable recording on their phones when the police officer's standing on his heads than doing two things: either telling the police officer to stop or fucking kick the police officer off at least for a moment, right? even if you go to jail yourself. We see it all the time. Robberies, all stuff. Nobody stops. Now, I'm going to warn you, we're going to have another problem here in what? 2 weeks? The first autopsy has revealed that he didn't die of suffocation. His windpipe wasn't crushed. That he possibly died of a heart attack. That might be why he fell first, right? And that might have been caused by having, but we'll have to see. But if you watch the video, he stumbled first. He collapsed long before he got around to the other side. That doesn't excuse the officer at all. That officer should not be an officer. That officer should be in prison. You don't just camp out on somebody's neck like that. So we'll have another unrest because nobody will believe it. They'll believe it's set up. They'll believe it's whatever. But it still does not excuse two things. We're all in this together, number one. And number two, you don't go burning up your city to make a statement. That doesn't make a statement other than you're an idiot. I just think it's very funny that everybody was screaming, "No, you're not wearing masks. You can't go back out. You can't do this." And all the news stations were shaming everybody. You're going out without a mask and you can't do this. We can't go back to work. It's too dangerous. Do you hear any of that stuff about freaking 100,000 people on the street standing side by side, yelling and spitting on each other? Do you hear any of that rhetoric? No, it just got forgotten. So the moral of the story is we're in this together, and it's not about the color of skin. You either buy into the lie or you don't. You either teach your kids to believe the lie or you don't, or you teach your kids to thrive and be different and want different things in life and work for them. Yeah, we got a lot of kids that think you get a trophy for participating. You know, I've often thought about, you know, I was saying the other day, I would really like to write a book called How to Take Snowflakes and Create a Snowball. But we live in different times where we price sensitivity at the price of objectivity. We prize sensitivity at the cost of logic. We've walked away from God, and I'm not saying you've got to go pray, kneel, Holy Ghost, Christ. That's not what I'm saying. God, the higher being. Our gods are now things, news, celebrities, stars. We've swapped our gods for other things. So we're all in this. It might get worse. I think it'll get better. I think, here's what I think, and I'll end with this. I think that a great awakening has happened. I can truly tell you that sans my career and sans my stuff in DC, I've always known there are factions operating against the system to break the system. But I was never a believer that there was a big orchestrated plan that had its tentacles everywhere that could move big masses of people and systems to an agenda. But damned if I'm telling you, the last 6 years has taught me it's true, which means we have to be more vigilant. We've got to be more authentic. We've got to be more transparent. We've got to look at our circles, right? People are either wind in your sails or anchors on your tail. They either make you go ahead or they drag you down. And that's what we have to teach everybody. And that's what we have to remember. And that's what we have to do. I don't think it's any big deal anymore if anybody's gay. I don't think it's any big deal if somebody has a different skin color than you, right? I think all that stuff's kind of overblown. I think it's But the bigger deal is, what do you choose to believe? And what do you choose to believe about yourself? And so, my parting words. We come to this earth and we all, I think, search for, what am I doing here? What's my purpose in life? What was I meant for? I know I've thought that many times. I reflect on that. How do I use my skills in the best way? But I think the most important thing I learned towards that end of trying to mold who I am, and Lord knows I'm can be horrible in many ways and many things, and I can accomplish a great many things, and I still struggle with a great many things. But the thing I think I learned that helped me understand the power of a person, the power of a human, therefore the power of me, was we've all been taught that we're made in God's image. And this is not a sermon, this is just a fact. And so does that mean, okay, God has love handles like me, has a double chin, is a white dude with a double chin, right? You know, no, that's not what it got. We're all made in God's image. Here's what it means. It means we have the power to create. We have the power to destroy. We have the power to create. We have the power to destroy. That's your superpower. You can destroy your life. You can destroy your body. You can destroy your relationship. You can destroy your friendships. You can destroy your homes. You can break glass. You can set buildings on fire. You have that power. You can choose to use that power. You can create great things. You can build great things. You can make wonderful art. You can hold people up. You could write books. You could teach kids. You could do computer programming. You could learn a new art or craft. You can create. You just have to decide who you are. And I think if we could teach kids that they have those godly gifts, they have those superpowers. They may not be invisible, they may not stretch, and they may not have metal talons come out that slice people up. But you have God-given powers to create or destroy. And I know nothing comes from something that is destructive that can last long term. And this is how I learned it. I was doing research for a book I'm working on and a project I'm working on. And I was studying stem cells. Stem cells are amazing. Like, you could have an athlete could have just a ripped up shoulder, horrible, won't heal, but they can harvest your own stem cells from your body and they can inject them into your joints and whatever, and you can heal yourself. And so I got really fascinated in this stem cell stuff. And one of these days I'll finish the book and get it out. But then I learned something. When I got really deep into stem cells, I learned that there's a lot of stem cells that come from aborted fetuses. It just has massive amounts of stem cells, right? And stem cells are magic. We're talking magic. But aborted fetuses have all these incredible, okay, stem cells in them. But then I learned an interesting thing. When they take stem cells from an aborted fetus, so far, the longest term they've got those cells to replicate and live is only about 6 hours. So they have a problem with the stem cell that they harvest from something dead, something that came from destruction, and reusing it in a system the right way and making it viable. I think it's because it comes from death. You know how I figured that out? Because if you take the stem cells from a healthy baby that's born and you use the umbilical cord from that very baby, you can even store it forward. When that baby becomes 80 years old, you can use the stem cells from their very same umbilical cord and heal them in the future. If you take the stem cells from that which was born alive, they always live and they're always viable. Think about that lesson. Destruction brings destruction. Life brings life. Put in bad, get out bad. Put in good, get out good. That's the moral of the story. So, Julia, thank you very much. I appreciate that. You're right, Bill. Unhappy water. We did that before. Unhappy water. Let's see, anything else. So I got some amens. Purpose in life. Serve your purpose. Teach, heal, know yourself. That's right. We are really amazing, right? We are really amazing as human beings, and we put men back out in space. I look forward to the day that we're going to figure out how to maybe live a little longer in space and do stuff in space, right? I know science has amazing things that can be done in space because of the weightlessness, right? That goes on in space. So you can do so much more science. So even just being able to do things in space that we can control differently that we can't do here on Earth, and we can release it from the binds of the Earth and get there to a more heavenly thing is good. Anyway, so I think we should be celebrating as a nation. We did some really good things. We got people out there. Anyway, I've missed you all. It's been nonstop days from 6 in the morning to 7 in the evening, most evenings. It's been stressful. It's been totally stressful. It has tested my wits, right? Tested my wits. It's been everything from governors to senators to mayors to politicians to health professionals and whatever. Everybody has an opinion. It's going all over the place. You would think it would be about healing people, but yet it's about, big systems and big payoffs and stuff. And sometimes you just think, oh my God, why can't we take care of ourselves? Anyway, if you see a kid, give them a hug, tell them you love them. First responders or police, stop them, tell them I love you. Thank you for your service. Thank everybody for the service, nurses, first responders. Talk to a kid, sit down with a kid, hang out, buy them a cup of coffee, get to know who they are. Maybe you can make a difference. Maybe that one kid that you can open up their mind can open up another kid, and it's just like a domino effect, right? That's it. So maybe we can help the domino effect continue to go on. Anyway, thanks for joining me. I'm going to try to get back to a regular schedule of talking to you all. Love you all. I promised to talk about Oak Island. I'm sorry I did not get to Oak Island. I'll do it. I'll do a special one because I know we went through another season and we found more wood, no wood. But I'll do a special Oak Island one. I'm very sorry I didn't get to it. Anyway, thank you. Thank you so very much for joining me again. Y'all take care, guys. Love you all. Thank you so very much. Reach out to a young person. Let them know it's cool. Let them know the difference between when you were a kid, and now when it is they can learn anything, and they can learn exactly what everybody pays $250,000 or $500,000 for a big ass degree. They can learn to, and they don't have to pay for it like the other people did. Take care. Love you all. Take care. Love you all. Bye-bye, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.